Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and I am just your weird guinea pig out here trying all the health fads without doing any research into them at all. I swear to God, it's like a superpower of mine to just blindly do things without having done I don't like research. I don't care about it. I'm glad it exists. Let me asterisk that. I'm glad it exists, but for like other people I trust to tell me that it's been researched. But I kind of just run on this like gut thing where it's like this person's doing it. I trust this person did the research. And when you have like a bunch of friends who are all like doctors, you can do that. You're like, they're a doctor. They wouldn't do this if, they didn't know it was true. So, okay. So here's how this started. You want to know how it ends? It ends with my new Loom box, red light, little like portable thing that I'm obsessed with. But it starts with me seeing all of these docs online talking about NAD. And I'm like, what the hell is NAD? And so instead of Googling it, I post on stories like, why are you all taking NAD? And so people start telling me, like, oh my gosh, it's anti aging and cellular energy and metabolism. Like, you have to do it. It's great. And people are getting like IVs of it. And then people are taking pills of it. And so I'm like, well, pills, I can literally go on Full Script and buy it right now. So, zero research, just like I have enough people who are passionate about it in my inbox. So I'm like, yes, okay, I will do this. So I order it and I start popping to a morning. Now, the first 2 days was fine, but like Kirby's second or third day, he gets a niacin flush. And most of you know what that is. If you don't know what a niacin flush is, it's when you take too much of the B vitamin niacin. What is it? Is that B3 or is it B6? No, it's not B6. I don't know. It's one of those. I'll find, you guys are all shouting at me. Anyways, it's niacin. And you get like all these like fire ants feelings like tingling, not in a good way on your face and your neck. And it lasts for a bit, like 15, 20, 30 minutes. So it's not comfortable, but it's like if you know what's happening, you're not freaking out. So I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Well, then I take 2 more the next day and then I get a niacin flush. Now I start getting the flush while I'm on a mastermind call with a bunch of really smart people or an accountability call that I'm in, like as a group. And 2 of them are like really not important. I mean, they're important, but like really smart functional med docs. And so I'm like, oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm like itchy. I'm having a niacin flush because I started taking NAD. And they both go like, all right, Lauryn, why did you start taking NAD? And I'm like, why are you looking at me like that? Because and so they're laughing and they go, well, obviously you're not metabolizing it. And I'm like, and then they go on their whole like functional med like spiel where I was only I was half listening, but they mentioned like, why don't you just do red light? And that like I think like NAD all right, here's like my dumb paraphrasing what they said. Like NAD stimulates one of the liver phases, but if your liver isn't strong enough, which I live in Wisconsin, I think we all know my liver is not strong enough. If you know, you know. If your liver is not strong enough, it won't continue to blah, 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 go through liver phases 2 and 3. I'm a doctor, y'all. Like, but red light therapy stimulates all 3 or like the first 3 of the 4. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And like, as they're talking, I'm like looking up red light therapy. Now, I have a relationship with Sunlight and Sauna. I love them. We have one of their saunas, but we only have an infrared sauna. We don't have one that has red light in it. And it's like in our basement and it takes a minute to cook, like, I don't know, like you get all sweaty. So I definitely love the sauna. I don't use it as much as I want. Like I would love to use it like 3 times a week, but I have to wash my hair afterwards. Like, again, if you know, like, ugh. So I'm like, all right. I saw somebody promoting Loombox online. I'm looking at it. I'm like, ooh, it looks cool. But it was like $600 when I went to their website. Well, then, okay, Fast forward, I find a promo code that saves $260 off a loom box. So it brought it down to like $329 or something. And so I bought it. Kirby doesn't like, I bought it on Valentine's Day. He took the girls to school. And by the time he got back, I said, like, thank you so much for my Valentine's Day present. You just bought me a loom box, but it was on a really, really good sale. Oh, side note, Sunlighten, for those of you who are stalkers, actually does have a brand new red light. It's $1,500 and it's like a large stand. I haven't committed to it yet, just because like the $1,500 point, like I liked the $300 price point better. So I'm probably going to end up with both. I'm just starting to see if I actually use the little loom box. And it's so cute and it's portable. So I can like, bring it into my living room, or I can bring it to my workstation, or, I can bring it into the sauna with me. So anyways, I'm excited. I got it. It's adorable. But here's the deal. If you go just to like loombox.com, it'll be $600. So I grabbed a code because like I found it randomly on some influencer or whatever, and I didn't have it. So like, I'm like, well, I want my own code now because I love this thing. So now I have a code for you that you can get it for $260 off. Okay. So it'll be in the show notes. But yeah, there you go. So let's all red light together. So let's talk about today's person that we have on. This is a really good episode. I'm excited. So this is Jill Schulman. Schulman, one of those. And she is a former USMC, I think, officer. Okay. That is a U.S. Marine Corps officer, leadership expert, happiness scientist, and keynote speaker who specializes in helping individuals and teams unlock their potential through the science of bravery. With a diverse background spanning military service, corporate leadership, and academia, Jill combines research-based insights with real-world experience to empower others to push limits, embrace bold goals, and elevate their impact, all while enhancing well-being and life satisfaction. This is actually like a really, really interesting episode. I loved our conversation on leadership and how, like, basically, I think I learned I'm a really selfish leader, and that's like my next layer of the onion that I need to like peel off. But awareness is the first step, right? So let's take a breath and pray. Dear God, today I pray for everyone listening who is a leader, and especially those who, when I say that, they're like, oh, I'm not a leader. Like so often we just look at the CEO as the leader, but we can be leader. Like first and foremost, we are leaders in our relationship with our spouse and showing up for them, not as a selfish partner, and leading them through life and their own growth journey and their own health journey and their own spiritual journey. And we are leaders for our children. Like that's what parenting is being an inspired and not selfish leader. I do just want to say I'm not a selfish. Okay, I'm kind of a selfish mother, but like not a narcissistic one. More selfish leader than I am mother. I put more effort into it. And, so whether you are, being a leader of your friends, helping them through a health journey, whether you are just a leader on Instagram or online and just demonstrating how we can take care of this vessel. Like, I just think that conversations like this move everyone who listen forward a little bit. And I know that anytime that we elevate ourselves, we are growing closer to the best version of us that exists. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Jill Schulman. Oh, okay. I have a funny story, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to have Jacob throw it on to the very, very end of the episode. So that's our editor. So if you want to hear a funny story about Ty praying, stick all the way through the final ads and you can hear this funny story. All right. Enjoy the episode. All right, Jill. Well, welcome to the podcast. So when I was doing research on you, and by research, I usually mean about like 3 minutes of like scanning. Who the heck did I say yes? Because like all requests for interviews go through me. Like I don't have a VA. Not that fancy yet, because I'm just really picky about like I want to have good conversations, and a lot of people just seem like they're going to be boring. So I said yes, and then like usually about 5 minutes before the interview, I'm like, Okay. Who did I say yes to? So Jill, you are I saw among many things, a happiness scientist.
Mm,
Okay.
yes.
How did you get to that point, and what is that?
Yeah, what is that? Is there even such a thing? Can you become a scientist who's an expert in happiness? And the answer is yes. I think anyone who gets in my line of work, so the field is called positive psychology, which is the
Do you
study of
consider
happiness
yourself
and
a
well-being.
positive person?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
I
but I
kind of
think
assumed, like, I don't think I ever would have entered positive psychology. I would have, like, self-selected out of that. I'd have been like, "That's not a strength of mine."
well, we can dive into it because I'm gonna get you to come over to this side. But I think
Okay.
part of the reason why a lot of people, including myself, like you end up studying and taking a deep dive sometimes in what you need. Right.
Oh,
So instead of just
yeah.
saying like, oh, I'm so happy. Let me like, I think you really become curious about what you want to learn. So I ended up going down that road because in my journey in my career the last 10 years, I've had a business and I do leadership development for large organizations, Fortune 100 companies. And I just coming back and I teach a lot of different things to my clients on how to create the best culture and be the best leaders. But I just kept stumbling upon some research from other like leadership people on the power of, positive like leadership and how creating like, fun and happiness in the workday is a key to achieving results. And I'm like, really? Because I'm the one who cracks the whip. I was the person, I mean, because used to be a United States Marine, and you can ask my teenage daughters, they're like, Mom, you are the crack the whip. Like, we're not having fun, we're getting stuff done. And I'm like, wait a second. Can you really be like positive and having fun and performing at the best? Like I gotta like understand this. So that's what kind of led me on my journey to study this is let me really understand the science. Like, do you have to decide to be, the drill sergeant cracking the whip to get results? Or are you like the nice, fluffy person that lets everyone slack off? And is there these two things that come together? So
I was gonna say, it
that's
kind of feels like that those are your options. So, like, positive leadership, is that basically a leader that inspires and leads from a place of positivity?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, really that is absolutely yes, and just a quick confirming yes leads from a positive place, but what I have learned, and this is now what I teach, is that you don't have to choose between these two extreme options, like, am I gonna be a jerk and drive results, or am I gonna be nice and we're gonna have a team of happy losers? It's just not. If you think that you have to choose between those, you're probably gonna really struggle as a leader. So this is having the mindset that I am here. I care enough about my people and I believe enough in my people that I know they can achieve their potential and they can perform at a level that is the highest. And because I care so much and I believe in them, I am not going to accept anything but them getting to that level. So it's really this belief. Like, I believe that you can perform at the highest level and meet the high expectations and achieve this crazy goal that you've set. And I'm going to do all the things that I can because I care about you. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to give you feedback because I believe in your potential. So that's where you can both like set very high expectations, but really like lead with positivity. Or if you really want to get a little fluffy, and I will say this in front of audiences, I talk on stages across the world, you can also lead with love, and that's what needs to be in your heart. You need to like go into your heart and go, why? What are you really trying to do for this person? And so you can have both high standards, lead with love. And when you do, that's where you get extraordinary results.
So, is the notion that, because I feel like we as a society for years, are you a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person?
Mm.
And like we like to categorize people as either optimists or pessimists. And I've always said, I'm definitely not an optimist, but I'm not a pessimist. I feel like I've always just like kind of bowed out of that. I've gone like, well, did you just drink half the glass? I would then say it's now half empty. If you took an empty glass and filled it up from a sink but only filled it halfway, I would say it's half full. So I've kind of always identified as like a pragmatist. But like, what's your opinion on this concept of there are optimistic people and there are pessimistic people. Is this
Mm.
like true when we look at the research or science?
Yeah, yeah. I think when we have those 2 extremes, what we think an optimist is that these are people who are Pollyanna. These are the people that can't see the reality. They're just the people that are happyology, like everything's gonna be okay, and that drives me freaking crazy.
Because those
Hate that.
people do exist. I mean, maybe
I
they don't inside their own head, but, like,
Yes.
I have met a couple of them that's just like, "Will you just have a shit day for once, please? It's
Yeah.
okay. Kind of feels good to vent." Like, we're the
Yeah. Like, so if we look at the research, what does the research say? And so I'm gonna cite Dr. Marty Seligman is really the father of positive psychology. So he is, I mean, he is the expert in this, and he, like, literally did his research on pessimism, and then what he wrote a book called Learned Optimism, and so he is one of my mentors. I went to school at, at UPenn where he still is, and so I just wanna share with you, like, I mean, sometimes we just think, "What is your opinion?" But let's really look at the research, and that's where I'm kind of a geek at heart because I sometimes just kinda have my knee-jerk reaction, but then I wanna look at, like, okay, so what is true, what is right, and let me be open to changing my point of view. So, being overly pessimistic is usually defined as when something happens, right? People just say, like, the sky is falling, it's never gonna work, so we shouldn't even try. And obviously, that mindset every time you encounter adversity is not very good because if you're saying, like, the sky is falling and it's never going to change and we're never going to overcome it, what does that do? It makes you stop trying, right? So, so being that's really the way the literature defines pessimism is, it's never going to change, it's going to ruin everything. So, learned optimism is not happyology. It is not like, oh, everything's going to be okay. We're going to pretend like there's no challenges. Like, that's just stupid. But optimism is both realism, like, what is the challenge that we're facing? Like, it today really sucks because we have a huge setback. And let's just take a moment and acknowledge that this really sucks. So, you can do that as someone who's can be optimistic, but then you have to just take that next step and say, okay, this hurdle was out of left field. It really sucks. I believe that we can figure out a way to overcome it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun, but I believe that we can overcome this. We can get past it. So let's now start thinking about how we can overcome it. So that's where optimism is very, very important for business success because when people are running into challenges,
Oh,
it
yeah,
really gets into
I
resilience.
can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
I've never heard somebody actually explain what optimism versus pessimism is, and,
Mhm.
like, there are like, I've also met pessimistic people that
They're
are
too
just like,
pessimistic.
"Damn,
Mhm.
you have thrown the towel in." Like, it's just like, "Well, what are you gonna do? Life sucks, then you die." Like,
Yeah.
and I
And then
can't
and then
imagine
think
that
about
person being in a leadership role.
yeah, and then think about how happy that person is, like, in their life in general. Their life, like, outside of work. It really, like, sometimes when people are pessimists, they don't have agency, and what I mean by agency is they don't feel like they have control over their life. They're just victims. Life sucks. There's nothing I can do about it, right? And that's kind of sad. Like, we have more power than we think. And that learning how to be optimistic, just, it's a skill that you can learn. And some people are more naturally pessimistic. And for anyone who thinks like I'm a pessimist, uh-oh, like, am I doomed?
Yes, you are.
Um, the way that
Just
our
kidding. Jill
brain is
says
kind of
no.
yeah, no,
Jill
it's
says
not,
you
you're
can
not,
learn.
you can learn. And in one way, it's not your fault because our many times our brain is wired to be more motivated by risk and fear than it is, the things that you can have. But there's ways that we can train our brain to like amplify the potential of, what could be instead of just letting so for anyone who maybe is a little bit more of like, maybe I'm more, pessimistic, there's things we can do to literally like when you start doing the work to move into this like learned optimism. I mean, it's called learn optimism for a reason because you can learn how to do it. But when you start trying to do that, you start literally rewiring your brain. I mean, it's the crazy thing about, oh my gosh, like our brains and neurology and plasticity. When you start kind of doing these little workouts in your brain to be more optimistic, it's kind of like a muscle. The first time you try to like lift really heavy weights because you have like wimpy biceps, it's like, oh my God, it's so hard and it's so sore. But the more you keep doing it, you can work out that part of your brain, and then as it gets stronger, it becomes easier. So yes, there's hope.
Can we talk about some of these?
Yeah.
Like, how do you become? And honestly, I mean, where do worriers fall into this? Like, because I feel like in the past, where I've been like, oh, I would say like, oh no, I'm not an optimistic person, is because I thought like I'm not analytical, but like I'm definitely like, all right, these are the facts. This is what is, and that really just doesn't seem like it plays into whether you are optimistic or pessimistic. It's just kind of your belief that whatever your situation is, you can improve upon it
You
and
can
learn
improve
from it.
on it. Yeah. And this leads into like, you talk about a practical strategy. Like this, we're going to go deep here. I hope it's okay that we're going
I'm
to go deep,
so ready.
psychology, right? And that is, it's what is the voice inside of our head telling us. So the pessimists are the ones saying like, this is never going to work. I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't overcome this. They're saying things like that. And what you tell yourself consistently becomes reality. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're going to be right either way. So this is so important for us to learn the skill, which is learning how to take charge of what we tell ourselves. And the easiest strategy, because I mean, we could spend 4 hours getting really into this, and I know we don't have that much time, but I'm just going to give a really simple strategy. So when you catch yourself saying any type of pessimistic thoughts, especially about you or your situation, the easiest tactic, and I got this from Dr. Karen Rivik at UPenn. She's the one who taught me this, and it was like so simple. I'm like, oh, this is gold. When you catch yourself saying that, imagine that your best friend or someone you really care about just said whatever you're saying to yourself out loud. Think of it as your child. I always think of like, what if my teenage daughter is saying this, which is like, I'm never going to be able to do this. Everything is ruined and the sky is falling. What would you say to that loved one? What would you say to that friend?
Are they saying it to you about you, or are they saying it about themselves?
If they're saying it about themselves.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like you gotta, be like, "Of course not."
Well, but
Like,
what would you say, like, genuinely to a friend? You would say, like, if they go, like, everything is ruined, I'm never gonna be able to do it. I think you would tell them truth and say, this is really hard. I know this really sucks. I'm here for you, right? Let's acknowledge it. But then you're gonna say, get up and try again. Like it's you made a mistake, you learn from it. Like you're gonna tell them things like, you can do this. You just have to keep trying. Like, don't let this hold you back. Right. So usually the natural thing that we're going to want to tell like this loved one is the same thing we should be telling to ourselves. So it's a really easy way to think about how to change that voice in your head to take control of the self-talk. And what Marty Seligman, teaches is you need to almost argue with yourself, but bring in the facts. Back to what you said, the facts. Like this went wrong, it ruined everything. I'm never going to be able to do it. Like that is ridiculous. That's not a fact. This one bad thing happened. It's a setback, but the reality is it's one thing. It's not ruining everything. I have an ability to move forward. So you almost need to do this little like exercise in your head where you're using facts to argue with yourself to say that I can do these things and I have a choice. This is isolated. It's a one-time thing. It's not ruining everything. And I have the ability to control what I do next. So if you can tell yourself that, then you can shift from being, pessimistic to optimistic. And the reason why this is so important is whatever you're thinking in your head impacts your actions, and your actions impact your results. And these are things in business and in life. So it's such an important skill. And, there are people that are much smarter than me in terms of like talking about your internal voice, there's Ethan Kross who wrote a book called Chatter. Like, I mean, I read that and I'm like, dude, like, so that's a really great resource for people to learn. And he gives some really great strategies, there. But yeah, like, I mean, it's just so important that we can believe that we can take control and we can take action. And if you really believe that and tell yourself that, then you're gonna be off to the races and you're gonna be resilient.
Okay. So kind of in steps towards becoming that optimistic leader or positive leadership. Step one, kind of looking at where are you at personally? Like, how are you talking to yourself? And I would imagine that tackling that first is like more important.
Mhm.
And so you're going to do this through arguing with yourself.
People are gonna think
Awkward.
they're crazy,
Well, so
like,
what's
yes.
really funny is I don't know if there's something wrong with me. There definitely is multiple, but like when you were saying, like, what would you say if your friend said, like, the thoughts that you were saying? Like, it's almost like reverse psychology. Um, where when
Mhm.
my brain went to like, if I'm like, oh my God, you're such a piece of crap. You are an absolute imposter. You can't do anything. If that was my thought, and then, like, in my when you said that, I was, like, picturing a friend saying that to me, and I'd be like, "The hell is wrong with," like, so I think you could also reverse psychology of, like, what would you say if somebody was saying those thoughts to you? You'd be like,
Oh
"No,
my
I'm
gosh, maybe
not."
that would be it. Like, yeah, you're right, you are a loser. You're never gonna be able to do it, right?
And I'd be like, "Wait, I didn't explode everything here. Okay, like, I do have some things." So, like, if maybe both different mental exercises. So, okay, so you start there. So now let's kind of branch into how does this show up
Mm,
in leadership? And
mm,
I would imagine that this is a lot easier done when you are hitting all of your goals and KPIs in clinic. And it's just
mm.
like, we're
Happy.
hitting our goals where you get a bonus and you get a bonus and like I'm proud of you. So I'm assuming that's easier. So like
Mhm.
when this really needs to show up is often when we're not hitting those goals and
Yeah.
employees are not living to their potential and you kind of just want to fire everyone and burn it down.
What do you do there?
What
Oh,
do
that's
you
great.
do there? Be-
Well, I think you start with you gotta get your own head on straight and find that optimism. Like, again, it's acknowledging, like, where we are right now is not to goal, and this is not good, but then you've gotta imagine, like, what is the future that you want to get to? Like, what would it look like if you achieved the goal or if you overcame this? So the most important thing is you got to start by leading yourself. I often say sometimes the hardest person to lead is to lead yourself. And if you can't lead yourself, you're going to have a hard time leading your team. So you got to acknowledge, the challenges that you have and then become that learned optimism like, okay, I have to believe that myself and my team that we can overcome these challenges and we can accomplish the goals. It's not going to be easy, but we can get there. And when you get to that place inside, and then you can go to your team and start leading them. But imagine if a leader is just like having a pity party, their lip is hanging out and they feel like there's no way we're going to be able to do this. We're all a bunch of losers and it that is not leadership. Leadership is about motivating and inspiring people to do the things that are going to lead to goal accomplishment, right? So
It's
how do
so
you motivate?
exhausting though. It's
You
like
think it's exhausting?
I don't like repeating myself. So like, yeah, and this is where like maybe I need to flex the muscle more. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, I do think that so like I can come in and give like a keynote and like I can go to somebody else's team that I've never
Mm.
talked to before and be like, "You guys, yeah, hoorah, rah, this is great." But then like I don't know. 6 months later, I'm looking at the same people on my team and I'm like, "Fuck, I have to give you another inspirational talk? I gave you one last quarter."
Yeah, that should have lasted longer.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really should've.
Mm. Okay,
What's wrong with that? Let's unpack this.
yeah, let's unpack this. Let's unpack this. First of all, if you're a leader, it's not about you. It's about them. Like, to be a great leader, I strongly believe in the concept of servant leadership. As you get up each day and you go to work, I mean, you got to realize that the way we achieve results is not by what you do. It's if the team is successful, then you're successful. So your whole job is not to drive results as a leader. Your job is to lead the people who are driving results, right? So your job is to how do you best serve your people so that they can succeed and win? So first thing is like, we need to stop thinking about like, what do I want to do? Like, I don't want to like give a pep talk. Well, you know what? It's not about you. You're in a leadership position. You got to do what's needed to make the team successful. So that's one thing. And there's a lot of different leadership styles we've got to use and flex in order to be effective in the right situation. So like Daniel Goleman, the father of emotional intelligence, he did a lot of writing on this and saying like, we have to be really looking like our leadership style shouldn't be a function of our personality. It should be a strategic choice based on what the team and the business needs. So I might say, you know what, we had a little bit of a setback. I am not a woo woo girl, and this is really hard. But what the team needs from me is visionary leadership. And I need to go and say, hey guys, this is what we're seeking to achieve. Here's why it really matters. We've got, an obstacle in our way, but, we're going to be able to get there. Right. So, even if you don't feel like it, well, if you really only care about doing what you want to do, then I'd say like, just don't be a leader, be an individual contributor. So servant leadership, I would say number one. And then, two is, one of the ways to get your team fired up to achieve goals and to overcome challenges is involve them in the problem solving. So Neil Doshi, Lindsay McGregor wrote this book that I love called Prime to Perform, The Science of Total Motivation. And one of the strategies they have in their book is throw the challenge at your team, let them come up with ways they're going to achieve it. And that is the way to get them fired up. So if there's a huge challenge, don't just go to your team and say, we can do it. Like, don't do like the motivation that's like, that doesn't work, which is just like a bunch of like woo woo rainbows and butterflies. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be substantiated, so go to the team and say, we've got a huge challenge ahead of us, but here is what we're trying to achieve, why it matters. I always talk about the meaning and say, I need all of us to come up with the solution on what we're going to do to overcome it. When you involve people in problem solving, you're going to light them up. And then they're going to take ownership for the solutions instead of being you. So like sometimes we just, instead of being the director style, like do this, do this, do this because we're behind goals. Sometimes that's what we want to do is like, we just need to like start giving more orders and yell at people more because they're not reaching the goal. No. The reason is they're not invested, engaged. They need to take ownership for their actions. So we need to let them come up with the solution. So there's, these different strategies, but when you do that, then they're actually going to care about, be motivated, and actually follow through on the plans because you empower them to come up with or be part of the solution.
Is this when you talk about the difference between managing and coaching?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, managing is, we do have to manage like KPIs and, all these things. There's things that have to be managed, but, what is coaching? I mean, if you look at the definition of coaching by the International Coaching Federation, it's, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking on the actual definition. Google it for me. Someone Google it for me. But it's, what is it? She's looking it up. Thank you so much. It's not,
A process. Okay. Coaching is a process where a coach helps a client achieve a goal by providing guidance and training.
mm,
Was that
mm.
not the definition you were
That's not
looking
probably the
for?
ICF one, but let me just, even though I don't know the word per word, but I'm just going to tell you like what I know in my heart. So coaching isn't telling people what to do and giving them direction. The International Coaching Federation, the most widely respected like body that certifies coaches, they say it's a collaborative process where we help people understand what are their goals and then we hold space so that they can create the path to achieve it. So we have to believe. This is a key one is
Okay.
we
I
have
found
to
another
believe.
definition from the
Okay.
ICF.
Okay. I'm going to Google it on my
All right.
phone. So
ICF defines coaching as partnering with clients in a
yes.
thought provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential.
Yes, that is it. That is the one that I usually have my slides and I have this word. So let's just unpack that. Partnering with individuals So now if you're
That's
leading
not just
from
telling someone what to do.
not telling them what to do, you have to say, here's what our team needs to achieve to make the biggest impact in our company, right? Here's what the team needs to achieve. Now, you need to help people define like what let's partner with them so that they can come up with how they're going to bring the most impact to the company. And then, we're going to help them maximize their potential. And that is by asking questions, getting them to answer. So like sometimes we need to stop doing so much talking, right? So I love the I grow model of coaching. So a real quick one is that you ask questions, and I grow is an acronym. It comes originally from Tim Galloway, the famous tennis coach. But what Tim Galloway, teaches is he goes, I love sometimes sports analogies and I think they're overused, but in this one I love it. So like, we're trying to help our people perform at their best, right? That's what we're trying to do as leaders. Like, can they just perform better? Like, oh my gosh, we get so frustrated. So Tim Galloway was talking about what he discovered as a professional tennis coach is he discovered that there's what he calls the outer game and the inner game. The outer game is giving people advice on like, how to put more topspin on your, you know, on your serve or
On
how
your
when to run up
servy
the net.
thingy. Yeah.
Yeah, do like all the like technical skills, right?
Mhm.
Like how to do the job better, the technical skills. But he said then there's the other side, which is the inner game. And there's obstacles like maybe anxiety, self-doubt, or maybe just not giving a shit because people don't care. Like we got to care about the inner game. Like how do we help people be more confident, more invested, and you can unlock all that with the skill of coaching. And anyone can Google like iGrow, but iGrow stands for, it's just a five step process, or it's a conversation roadmap to ask person like let's identify the goal that we're going to have a conversation on. So we got to align with the goal. What is one of your goals that you have at our company to bring the biggest impact and to be the most successful? So you have them identify the goal. And then, so that's so identifies the topic. G is the goal. So let's talk about what is the topic you want to talk about. Let's talk about what your goal is. What is your goal? Instead of saying, here's what your goal is, right? What is your goal? It's pretty powerful when you ask them, what do you want to achieve here? Then, the R is what is the reality right now? So here's like, I'm not meeting my goal. I'm not hitting my KPIs. I want to be. So now in the mind of your coachee, they've got this gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And they're the ones have articulated it. So now they've talked about where are they now? Reality. That's R is reality. Then O is options. And you ask them, what are different ideas or ways that you can move from where you are now, not hitting your KPIs and not being on track to achieve the goal, to being able to achieve your goal or overachieve your goal. So you ask for options. So you're pulling it out of them. This is where as leaders, we sometimes want to just go into like telling them what to do. Let me tell you how to be successful, but just say, I want you to really think about this. And I want you to come up with what the path that you feel confident is going to get to your goal. And it's so hard as leaders because we'd have to zip it.
Yeah.
Mm. And then they come up with a lot of options. And at this point, you can even let them know, like, hey, do you want to take a day to think about it and come back to me?
That's what you say if
Talk
they're coming up with bad options, right?
if they say, I don't know, just tell me what to do. And then you tell the person, I would say, Lauren, I hired you for a reason. You're smart, you're capable. I have faith that you're going to be able to come up with really great strategies to achieve your goal, but take some time to think about it. Feel free to use resources. Is there anyone else on the team that's really great at this? Talk to them. I really want you to put some thought into this and let's come back and I want to see what you come up with. And then they'll come back and now it's their plan, right? That they came up with. So that's the options phase. And then you get to the final thing, which is what will you do? The W is will. So based on everything, these are options of what you could do. What will you do? And then that's where they commit and say, as your coach, as your leader, let's follow up in a week and let's talk about what you've done, right? And then you hold them accountable for what they will do. So that is what coaching is. Coaching is appropriate when people have enough competence and knowledge of what to do. Now that's different. If someone's new on the job on day 2 and you try to do I grow coaching, like that's stupid. Like they don't even know what to do. But when they've got enough time and they're not really invested or motivated, like just using that coaching, it just really gets them invested
Mhm.
and gets them more motivated to do the work.
So, one of the most common things that I know anybody listening will say is just like, this sounds time consuming.
It does.
Like,
Mhm.
this just sounds energetically a little draining. And it's just easier for me. Like, it's fine. This works fine with my employees. They want me to tell them what to do. And I say, here's your problem. Here's how you respond to the email. Okay. Here's how you handle this problem. Here's how you handle this problem. So, like, for someone who's really stuck in that, like, because I get it, this is the teach a man to fish
Yes,
situation, right?
exactly.
Like, you are teaching someone how to become solution oriented, and long term,
Yes.
they're going to be more fulfilled. They're going to, because they are like, you're going to retain them longer, and they're going to be a much higher productive and quality employee. So, like, we get this long term.
Yes.
How do you get someone over that like hurdle of just like,
Mm.
it's, it's just easier? It's
It
just
is easy.
easy, hard versus hard, easy.
So this is where I say it's not about you as a leader. You got to do the hard thing.
Mhm.
You got to do the right thing, the hard thing, because when you take time to do that, you're going to have, don't just think of like, what are the results today? I need to be, as a leader, you've got to be more strategic. I need to do the right things that are going to lead to long term success. Right. And so I would say it's not about you, it's about them. What are the leadership actions that are the best leadership actions for this employee and for the business long term? Now, there's a caveat. Like if there is an emergency, like the biggest client is unhappy and we're going to lose them, and I mean, the research supports this. Like when there's an emergency or a safety issue, then you have to go into drill sergeant mode. And you have to you got to let your team know, like, you know what, right now, I just need to give direction and here's why, because we have an emergency and this is really important. So today we just have to operate this way to get through this crisis. Right. So if there's a reason for it, then you can get into that directive mode where you can just be kind of giving orders. But we got to think of long-term success. And let's go back to just where you started. You said, Jill, you're a happy scientist. If your people are not happy in their job, they're not going to perform as well. And that is really what we're trying to do. And if you become a great coach and you do it this way, you're really demonstrating to the person, you're demonstrating respect. I mean, if I go to you, Lauren, and say like, okay, let's spend some time, right? And I'm coaching you, you're going to feel like, wow, like you care about my opinion. You think I can come up with solutions? Wow. Like now I feel like, God, I feel important. I feel smart. I feel valued. Wow. And then I'm going to, my self-efficacy, my self-confidence goes up. When you spend your time coaching, these are the moments where it's the best moments as a leader, because that person maybe works for you for 5 years, but goes on and does something else. And they're going to keep in touch with you for the next, 50 years, because they're going to be like, you were the best leader. You like really helped me grow. So it's just worth it. It's the right way to lead. All the evidence and like even developmental psychology, like, think of like things as a spectrum. When people just first get started, like you need to give them direction. Like, well, here's how you respond. Here's an appropriate response. Like you got to give them direction as they're getting started. But once they know the why of the company and they have been trained on the skills, you need to pull back and go into coaching mode. And that will help them perform better, be more invested and happier. And that is the key to success. If people are disgruntled, like what are they going to do when you're not watching and you're on vacation for a week?
Right.
Hmm? Mm-hmm. Which
So,
was
can do you really believe that 100% of people, when coached like this, can handle it from an employee perspective? Because, like, I picture a good amount of, I'm just thinking about like a front desk person that's like, I thought I was hired to answer the phones and schedule
Mm,
people and like do this. Like, I wasn't looking to become management CEO, this or that, although I'm sure they want more money. But like,
right.
there's got to be a good percentage of people who kind
Hmm.
of just opt out when
Yeah.
you start to coach.
Right. And I would say, just in general, can everyone become a great employee? Is everything going to work out? No. Like sometimes Some employees, you're going to set clear expectations, you're going to onboard them, train them, you're going to give them your very best leadership styles, and they just don't care, or they just aren't going to perform that well. And when that happens, we need to do the hard thing and you need to let them go because they're not good for the business, right? And I would say too, even when you're hiring for people, like let's say someone is going to be working the front desk, it doesn't pay that well. Still, when you do your hiring, just say, here's what we're looking for. Here's what the job description is, but here is our culture. I want people to understand the mission of our company, what we're trying to do. Everyone needs to grow and develop in every role. I believe in, servant leadership and really helping people, maximize their potential in anything. Like, so you just gotta kind of like let them know when they come in, like, this is going to be a job where I'm going to expect you to, I'm not hiring you just for your hands and your feet to do things. I'm hiring you for your brain, and I'm going to challenge you to solve problems on your own. And is that a job that you want? Because I don't want people just coming in and doing the bare minimum, because that's not our culture and you're not going to be happy here. So just make sure you're kind of filtering, not for like people that can just answer the phone, but that people really, they hear that and they're like, "Oh, that sounds great. I want that."
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
and, like, I don't know how much you've looked at, like, generational differences, but, like, the
Mm.
newest workforce, like, Gen Z, they say, I don't know, I'm a millennial, they say is not inspired necessarily by the dollar, but by feeling
Oh gosh.
part of it. Now, oh, hold on though. I've also heard kind of an opposite thing. All right. So,
Mm.
on one hand, I've heard that Gen Z is like, I want to feel a part of the vision and mission and like I'm a valuable contribution to something. I've also heard that they're like, through an identity, they're like, no, this a job is a job. Like, I don't need. So, like, what have you heard about?
Okay, so I'll tell you what I know, but then, I can give you the name of someone, Karen McCullough. She is, like, the expert in the generations, and she's a friend of mine, so I will, like, connect you, and she can tell you more about, because she's an expert in it. But, what I've learned from Simon Sinek, who is an author that I love, he says, "People are people." So, humans are humans, so, and he's such an amazing gifted speaker, so I can listen to him speak all the time, but he's like, there's been every generation, back when there was, like, baby boomers are like, "Oh, these young whippersnappers, they don't really care." It's we always say that about our younger generation, but at the end of the day, if you connect humans to the why, they're gonna be more motivated. So, I would say that that is universal, it's not going to stop, so we need to tell them about the why, and the more we can tell people about the why of our company, then they're gonna start caring about it. So, we need to, as a regular basis on a regular basis as leaders, talk about the why of our company. Like, what is the why of our company? What is the impact we're trying to make for our people, our customers? And you need to keep it's kind of like a pastor, doing their sermon. Like, you don't a pastor doesn't just tell you a lesson, a sermon, and just expect people to believe it. They keep preaching the same thing over and over again. So when it comes to our purpose, our mission, our why as a company, like, you have to be an evangelist all the time talking about the why. And when you're sick of talking about it, you need to keep going. It's not about you. So universally, you need to be talking about the why for every single demographic, whatever generation. And then the other thing, and I really find this in the younger generation because I have, again, like teenage daughters. I have a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. And what I know is if you need to make them feel respected, if you make them feel disrespected, whoo, they're going to be like, "I'm out." Like, I am out. They're a little bit, I think, maybe a little bit entitled. I don't know. I feel that a little bit like I don't mean to offend anyone, but this has been my experience, but maybe it's just like all young people. So how do you make people feel respected? You tell them, "I'm counting on you. You've got a really important job here. I'm not going to just bark orders. I'm going to tell you what your role is, what your responsibilities, tell you about our mission, and I'm going to be counting on you to deliver to the best of your ability. And that's why I'm going to be coaching, right?" So if you use the skills of coaching, it's going to help them feel more respected. And when they feel respected, I think they come back with a genuine engagement and an effort in the job, versus if you make them feel disrespected by just telling them what to do and barking orders, then when you
Right.
turn around, they're just going to be giving you the finger,
Mhm.
and maybe being disengaged or actively
Right.
disengaged.
Or
Mhm.
quiet quitting is their term they like to use.
Quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So you wrote a book on bravery. How did these topics interweave?
Yeah, because we've been I mean, I have spent the last 15 years dedicated to, like, helping leaders be the best leaders, so we spent most of our time talking about that, but after I went back to school and studied positive psychology, I I ended up getting really interested in this character strength of bravery and realizing that so many people in life, but especially in business, the reason why people don't achieve higher levels of success and happiness and well-being is because fear prevents them or holds them back. And I just realized, like, wow, this is so interesting. So I did a deep dive in my research, my capstone on the science of bravery. And that's kind of my new focus moving forward. And I do bring it to organizations as well, but it's really teaching leaders, like, how do you help increase that self-confidence and self-belief so that people can be brave, which is setting challenging goals, believing that they can achieve at a higher level. A lot of people just think, like, I could never do that. Like, I could never do that. And they have fear of even trying. So it really goes back to the individual. Like, how do you teach individuals to be brave? And I'm not talking about running into burning buildings or enlisting in the Marine Corps or becoming like I was in the military, right? I'm not talking about the bravado of, like, saving lives. I'm talking about the everyday bravery of believing that I can do more, and it's scary, but, bravery is defined as taking action in the presence of fear. It's not eliminating fear. It's not waiting until you feel ready. It's taking a step in the presence of fear or despite fear. And, fear holds people back from sharing an idea. Maybe
What do
it
they in your research, like, what's the root there? Like, okay, so it's like what fear of looking stupid? Like fear, like, because fear of failure is like what everyone says of like, oh, but what if it doesn't work out? But like that doesn't feel like enough of a root. Is it like, is it fear of embarrassment? That's really the root for a lot of people of why.
There's many layers to it. It's whatever the risk is. So if you think of, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which
I
anyone
love.
took, so you know that psychology 101, it could be simply security. Someone that thinks of, what I really want is to do this career, but I have a job and it pays oak, it pays well. And so from a security perspective, like, I just need to, the right thing to do is to just keep earning a paycheck because it's a risk to try something different. So it could be down in that the first labor layer, just like, what
Yeah,
are
I
our
could I could lose my job or I could not have enough money to pay my mortgage and I now
exactly
lose my house. Like
right.
literally
Yeah,
shelter.
so if we look at all the layers, or sometimes it is, I'm afraid of failing, and that's a risk that I'm scared of, or I'm really scared of that, the social implications. Like, what if I speak up with an idea and it gets rejected? I'm going to be embarrassed. Some people are scared of just being vulnerable, right? Of admitting, that they've made a mistake, or that they don't know what to do. There's a lot of different layers to what people are scared of. And we got to unpack all of those, so I think that's the core thing that holds people back from getting the life that they want. Like, we're trying to avoid a life of regret. And it's understanding what we're scared of, right? Like, what do you really want? What is the fear holding you back? And then how do you overcome those fears? And anyone can become brave. They just don't know how. Ryan Nemec from the VIA Strengths Lab. So
Yeah,
he's a
yeah,
researcher
yeah.
on, do you know him?
I
Okay.
not
Yeah.
him, but I know the VIA strengths. Yeah.
The VIA Strengths. Yeah. So
hmm
Ryan Nemec is the one who runs VIA Strengths. I mean, Chris Peterson started it, the original guy, but now Ryan runs it. And Ryan just published a paper and said that out of all the character strengths, bravery is one of the two that people want more of. They want to elevate that character strength. They just don't know how, right? And when I started digging into the research, there's not a lot of research on how to build it. Like, it's like everyone knows what bravery is, and people that are brave can look back and say, here's what I did, but like, how do you build bravery? And that's kind of where I'm coming in, is like, what are the things that we know that we can do to build more bravery, really, so people can just get whatever they want. Do they want a better relationship? Do they want a better career? Do they want to maybe move up, within their company? Do they want to see the world, but they're scared of flying? I mean, there's so many aspects of fear, but I'm just on a mission now I still do leadership stuff, my company, and I have other facilitators that deliver, but I really am just interested in helping people be brave to take steps. Because when they do, Lauren, when they do, it is the most exhilarating thing ever. The best moments in life are on the other side of something really hard and scary.
Oh, but people are so comfortable being comfortable. Like, so okay, so if you had to, because I know you wrote a book on this, if you had to give like one sentence or like in less than 1 minute, what's the key piece of advice on helping someone starting to become more brave?
First of all, realizing that comfort does not bring you happiness. Comfort is a trap. The more you choose comfort, the more you get stuck in that rut, and you're not going to take on those challenges. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic philosopher,
Man, you just like quote all my favorite people.
I know. This is why we got to have another conversation. One of his quotes that I love is, he goes, "Comfort is the worst addiction." So staying comfortable and like removing challenges is the certain path to not a life well lived and a life of unfulfillment. So just start there. And then there are things you can do to get comfortable stepping into discomfort. And I promise you, that's the path to greater success, happiness, and well being. And it's mindset, actions, and relationships. And that's what I teach. Is I teach people like the practical things, right? Instead of
Yeah.
just saying like, don't be uncomfortable, just do the uncomfortable thing.
Right.
Like, I realize they
Or
need
just
more.
responding to your kids, but did you die? That's like that's like example number one, right? Of exactly what you do. You just yell at them, but did you die?
Yeah. Did you die? Right. Exactly. And there's a little like saying we have in the Marine Corps, and my girls are really sick of hearing it, but I really believe it. And that is, in the Marine Corps, like, people have it on their shirts, they have it tattooed on their body, and it is, pain is weakness leaving the body, which is a little like over the top, but just in general, like discomfort, like, stepping in, being uncomfortable makes, you stronger. So just, I want people to not choose the easy path. I want them to choose the uncomfortable path, the challenging path. That is the road. And that's the road to higher levels of success, happiness, and well-being. And this is not my opinion. Like, I can back every one of these things up with research, empirical evidence. And so I just want to get that message out there, because I think we're getting too soft, Lauren. People are.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. I
Mm,
completely agree. I see entrepreneurs starting a business, and they're looking for work-life harmony year one. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
it's not reality.
Are we talking about, and they're just like, and this is at multiple ages. This isn't, because I see hustle at multiple ages, and I see like, wait, what? You're starting a business. No, you gotta go. You got
You
like
got to
a grit and
grind.
hustle. Like, it's okay. There is a time and place for that. But like, yeah, I think,
Yeah, they don't take the action. Like, in
yeah,
my framework, in my Brave framework, which is my model, I talk about, like, first step is mindset. You got to believe that you can. But how many people do you know? This drives me crazy. These are the dreamers. These are the people that have vision boards and visions and goals. They talk about it, but they don't do shit. You cannot stop at step one, which is believing that you can. You got to grind, right? And how do you get up, each day, and maybe do something you don't want to do to achieve your goals? Like, there's things that people can learn, ways to develop that discipline to do those things. So you're right. Let's just give everyone a reality. You can't just, this is someone who's a happiness scientist. You can't just dream something and manifest it and it's going to happen. That's a start. You need to grind. It's going to be
mhm.
hard. It's not going to be easy,
And
but
it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong.
No.
And in fact, that's why it feels so damn good when you accomplish it, because it was hard. If it's just easy, then it's not going to lead to as much satisfaction, right? So, yeah, let's choose the hard path, stop being comfortable, Comfort is the worst
I think
addiction.
I think society's figuring it out. I think like the rise of Jordan Peterson and things like that.
Mm,
Like I think that I think we're starting to go like, "Oh, actually, I think we kind of came maybe a little hard on like alpha energy and toxic masculinity and like I think we like went a little anti and like yes, there are some aspects that we can evolve out of, but like let's not I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater. So I think
I agree.
the
I
baby's coming
agree.
back inside. So,
Yes, we're trying to swing that pendulum
bringing
back
the baby
over.
back inside.
Yeah.
Okay. So, where can people find more of you?
Oh, well, just go to my website. It's probably the best way. My website is just my name. So it's jillschulman.com, JILLSCHULMAN.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can take an assessment, really understanding like how brave am I? And you're going to get a result in the three areas: brave mindset, brave action, brave relationships. And then you just get a free guide to give you tips on how to work in those areas. So I have that as a resource. Or follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'm always giving like little blurbs to. Sometimes we just need the little reminders day in and day out. Like I personally have my daily reminders. Like I have a different quote I look at each day because I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy. So I get my little quotes from the people I look up to, and those reminders every day really help me live my brave life. So if people follow me, like I just do like little things to keep people, moving in that direction and reminding them because we all need the reminders, especially on those tough days. So, yep, they can follow me in all those ways. And then I've got my book coming out. The book is written. I've written it as a parable. I love reading stories instead of boring business books. I love parables. So this is an entertaining parable teaching the science of bravery in an entertaining way. It only takes 2 hours to read. So it will be coming out in late May of 2025. So if you just get on my website and sign up for my newsletter, we'll be having like, information about the book coming out. But hopefully that can help people as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was really, really enjoyable. Okay, She Slayers, we'll have those links for you below. Go take your bravery assessment. If you like topics like this, make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast. That helps the podcast even more than reviews, but absolutely leave a review. And then make sure you are signed up for our weekly newsletter to make sure you're getting all the downloads on things. Jill, thank you so much again. And I hope I'll wish you all the success in talking about bravery because we as a society definitely need it.
You need it. We need it. Well, thank you, Lauren. I had so much fun being on the podcast and chatting with you. Like, I feel like you're my new BFF. I had
Yep.
so much fun.
On a weekly basis, I'm just getting new BFFs. So bearing my soul of like being a selfish leader. Of like, oh shit. That was my takeaway of like, oh, I'm a selfish.
Oh, you're like,
Okay.
oh shit. You know what? I was that way too. If there was hope for me,
We
there's
got
hope for
this.
everyone
I
because
got
I did
this.
it wrong before I did it right.
Yeah,
So,
good.
okay.
All
All
right, She
right. Take care.
Slayers. Until next week. Bye. All right, you creeps who stuck around till the end to hear this little story. First of all, in between then and now, it's B3. I knew it. I knew it. I just, needed to like triple check. It's been a minute. Okay, so every night before bed, we teach or we do a family prayer. Okay, so we start with something we're grateful for that day, something we like about ourselves, and you can't repeat things. And then something you like about a member of the family, and like it rotates. So like we'll all say something we like about dad. And then if he's the one getting the compliments at night, he's the one who does the prayer. So every fourth night, our daughters are doing a prayer. And so we were talking about how like difficult it is to pray. And I'm like, girl, tell me, I pray on the podcast all the time. And it's like some of them are real bad, like real bad. And so we were teaching the ABC prayer. And so we're like, oh shit, now I'm forgetting like what does ABC prayer? Okay, so I'm like, A stands for like, and there's lots of different versions of this, but I'm like, so like A stands for like acknowledge or admire God for being really amazing. B is like belief. So we believe that you are capable of helping heal this or that. Oh no, A is admit. Sorry, admit. Then B is believe, and then C is commit. Like I'm committing that. So we go through this. It's another one is like adoration, blessings, contrition. But so I told the kids, admit, believe, commit. So like 2 nights later, Ty is doing the prayer and she goes, Dear God, I admit that sometimes I don't pay attention enough. And I believe that I can pay attention enough. And I commit to paying attention enough. I'm like, close. You were real close. But we'll keep working on it, kid. So, all right. Now I will see you next week. Bye.